Hi, welcome to the Simple Nourish Living podcast. I'm Martha McKinnon, and this is my partner and brother, Peter Morrison.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. So, have you heard of the milkshake experiment?
I haven't, but before we get started, this is podcast number 5, and I just wanted to
Okay.
say that I'm super excited that we're still trying to figure this out.
Yeah, we are, but we keep hanging in there. So we're giving ourselves credits, and I think this is good for our readers to understand because for me this is very much like any journey and any time you're trying to change things and make things better or try new things, and
Start something new.
start something new. I mean, when you're wanting to like slim down, take off some pounds, eat better, live healthier. I mean, that can be brand new, right?
Hmm.
And so it's the same. And here, like doing video is brand new for us. And so what we're demonstrating is that you just keep trying different things and you keep showing up and you don't say tomorrow or when everything's perfect and
Right.
you keep doing it. So I
And
hope
I'd say
people,
the first one was difficult, the second one less, and it's getting a little less difficult. I wouldn't say it's super comfortable by
right?
any means at this point, but it does get easier.
It does. Well, and think about like writing posts. How hard was writing posts when we started like more than a decade ago versus now,
Right.
right? Or figuring out, I know for us, a big hurdle within the world of our website was switching over to blocks and
Right.
that new technology. And how long did we delay doing that? I mean,
Couple years actually.
right? In WordPress,
I'm ashamed
we
to
just,
say.
right? We just, again, but it took a day of sitting down and get well. And there were years ago, I switched from a laptop to Mac. I mean, and
Mm.
that was a painful, or there are days I just wanted to,
Transition, yeah.
I transition. I just wanted to like put it back in the box. I mean, so I think it's natural to get frustrated, especially as we're older. I think young kids can just, they'll try anything. But as we get older, we get kind of stuck in our ways. So,
For
but you got
sure.
to keep trying new things.
Yeah,
So
so
what else is good?
milkshakes, you got my attention by saying milkshake. I haven't had a milkshake in ages, but I'm kind of
Right.
curious.
Yeah. So this one may blow your mind. I'm really one of my big areas of interest is the whole mind body connection, the placebo effect. I mean, I've been reading about this and studying it for years because it just gives me goosebumps. I mean, when you start to read all the research and studies that show how powerful our mind is, and the powerful effect it can have on our body.
Mm.
From I think the first real time I tuned into this, I was listening to, I think it was a book, like a book or an audio story. And again, any story I'm going to share, you'll find it out in the research. But this was a story where this orthopedic doctor did various kinds of knee surgery on patients who were really debilitated, experiencing pain and lack of mobility. And so he'd go in and do these different like laparoscopic procedures. He had different techniques, and he didn't really know like which one worked best or why they worked. And I think this is a study that maybe would never even be approved in this day and age, but somehow they were able to do this study where they took some patients and actually did like procedure number one, some did procedure number two, and then some patients all they did was make the incision. They didn't really do the procedure. And all of the patients basically had the same healing response. The people who only got the incision but never really had anything done beyond that were up playing basketball and they recovered the same as the people who had the real surgeries. And as a result of that, this doctor ended up leaving his practice and going into study this whole concept of like mind body medicine and the power of the placebo effect because he was just gobsmacked.
That
Um,
doesn't sound
Possible, right?
possible.
Right. But the more you read about it, and like I said, and I've read tons about it, and it just It's irrefutable. I mean, there's studies that date back. And again, I've got other examples like in my mind that show up again and again and again because they're sort of classic examples of it in the research. So it's real, even though we don't understand it, and even though we, have some question about, well, how does that work? Because there's like life is a mystery. And our bodies and minds clearly can be a mystery. The milkshake experiment really relates to what we're talking about here. I think it's just a tremendous aspect to start considering when you're looking to manage your weight. So, do you want to watch it?
Yeah, that'd be great. I actually have
Okay.
it queued
It's
up.
a
I
pretty
have.
short. It's a pretty short clip that it explains the experiment that was conducted, I think, at Columbia by a researcher named Aaliyah Crum.
Okay, and give me 1 minute.
Yeah. So I think it's worth watching, and then we can talk about it.
Who among us has not had this moment? That kind of intimate tete-a-tete with the nutritional label, trying to discern, are you good or are you bad? But here's the thing you probably haven't considered.
Labels are not just labels. They evoke a set of beliefs.
That's Aaliyah Crum. See, Crum had spent years studying the placebo effect, and she figured that food labels might work the same way. And so to test her idea, Crum created a huge batch of milkshakes. And then labeled it in two very different ways. Then, as people drank the milkshakes, she had nurses monitor their levels of this hormone called Ghrelin.
People in the medical field call it the hunger hormone.
Basically, when you have not eaten anything, Ghrelin levels in the stomach rise, which signals to the brain that it is time now to seek out food.
I like the rock and roll music and I like to dance the cha-cha-cha. I like the rock and roll music and I like to dance the cha-cha-cha. I got the mouth fever and I like to sing.
But after that rise, say you have a big meal.
Ghrelin levels are going to drop a lot. And what that does is it signals to the mind, you've had enough here, and I'm going to start revving up the metabolism so we can burn the calories that were just ingested.
But Crum discovered that those who believed they were drinking the indulgent shake responded as if their bodies had eaten 3 times more. So what people believed about their milkshake came true. If they thought it was fattening, they felt they'd eaten more, and their digestion was affected. Their ghrelin levels dropped 3 times more. So to summarize, you may be able to change your metabolism with your mind. So in theory, if you want to lose weight, you could try eating healthy food with an indulgent mindset. You'd feel fuller and your metabolism would increase. And if diet products actually wanted to help you lose weight, they'd advertise as fattening, not fat-free.
We have this very simple metabolic science, calories in, calories out. And I think that we haven't given enough credit to the role of our beliefs in determining our physiology, our reality.
Wow.
What'd you think about that?
Shocking.
It's shocking.
And I would say I have less relatability with nutrition and eating, but it made me something I thought about is sports. I know a lot of pro athletes work with psychologists, and one of the big factors for athletic performance is visualization. Sort of like imagining yourself winning the match and just over and over. And what I've read and the way I understand it is the body, you're thinking it in your mind, you're seeing it and experiencing it, and the body, no, how does it work? The mind doesn't know the difference,
The
or the
body
body
doesn't know the
know the
difference
difference.
between what's real and what
You
you're programming, what you're visualizing. Yeah. So I mean, and as you mentioned that there have been, again, because I do read a lot on this topic because it's so interesting to me. So they have done studies where they actually, like you talk about this, for example, they'll take two groups and they'll tell one group to visualize like playing this simple song on the piano. And the other group will actually like play the piano, and the people who were visualized will often have the same or a similar response as the people who actually, so like you're talking about, you could actually go out and practice your free throws, right? Or you could visualize yourself practicing and hitting. And just that activity of visualization was going to improve your performance, which seems, and again, like you said, there's a lot of top athletes who work with sports psychologists for all of these kinds of reasons.
So this study in this video, she made one batch of milkshakes, labeled one side for one group of people, like the super indulgent, high calorie treat,
And I think, right.
and the other is like the low fat version, and that's all the people knew, right? When they were
Right. And I think
drinking
what
was
they
what.
did was they actually tested, like, so the same group of people, like on different days, they got the different shake. So they controlled for all of so they controlled for, and in many ways as they could. So like all the people eventually took each shake so that they could compare apples to apples. Essentially, it was like what your body did with the shake that you thought was skinny or, less caloric versus the one that you thought was more indulgent. So they could compare side by side the results in each person.
And that resulted in this ghrelin hormone,
Yeah.
its
So
levels in the
so
body.
ghrelin is that hormone. The medical community calls it the hunger hormone. And so when your ghrelin levels go up, you're going to experience like hunger. And so there's been lots of research around that, like how do we control? And I think there've been, if you go and look, like ghrelin diets to try to like help you control your ghrelin levels and all kinds of things, because it is a powerful hormone that makes you feel hungry. So, but this demonstrated that it was your beliefs around what you were eating that actually affected that hormone, not what you were actually
Not
eating or
actually
drinking.
what you were, right.
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 And that's where I think that I'm really impassioned, because I love, what we do here. But as the research keeps changing and as our understanding keeps expanding, I think it's really important to be considering all of these aspects of the journey that we're talking about undertaking, because we can't think of ourselves as just like a physical body, or just a mind. And I think it's a mistake if you just focus on, like Aaliyah talked about, like calories in, calories out. I mean, that's one thing to consider, but we have to think of ourselves as, I've heard the term recently called biopsychosocial beings. We're not just animals. It's like our biopsychosocial. So physical, mental, and like social. I mean, that can, like, we're social animals too. And so you have to really consider all of those aspects when you're trying to put together a plan that's really going to be most beneficial for you. So when you think about this, in terms of trying to eat better, trying to maybe, slim down, maintain your weight, what I take away from this is that some of the things that we're doing that we think are going to be helpful to us we might be working against ourselves in ways that we didn't really understand, right?
Meaning like low fat, low calorie label, like the label that
Right.
influences what we're purchasing because we think it's
Right.
the best, you know.
Yeah. So for example, it's like, and again, this is not like, this was never intended, right? We're intending to try to like, because it would make, who would ever think that our that our body wouldn't react just to what we were eating, that somehow what we
Exactly.
thought about what we were eating would actually change our biology. I mean, who,
That's what
no,
I'm struggling with.
right? I mean, right? And so but if you really can grasp this, it has powerful implications. And I think about it in terms of my own journey. Because I've been through all these, I've been doing this, trying to figure this out, trying to understand this connection between food and health and weight, for decades now. And I think about my own journey, and I think about all of the low fat movement. Was that I guess that was the 80s and the 90s, right? The big low fat movement. But I mean, I remember Snackwells. I remember low fat Entenmann's Danish, you know, and I think about the fact that I ate so many of those products, and I remember like the Snackwell, for example. It was an Nabisco product, and there was this chocolate cookie that you could eat. I could eat it forever, and it would never satisfy me. And it's like, was part of it this what we're talking about here? The fact that I thought it was low fat and I thought it was better for me. Consequently, the ghrelin levels, you know, never went down. Was it really my mind, or was it just the fact that physically it wasn't satisfying? I don't know, but it's interesting to think about. What if those experiments had been, a similar experiment had been done back then, comparing those cookies with like Oreo, because
Right.
it was the
Right.
replacement for the Oreo, conceivably, but it took me a long time to realize that one Oreo or a couple of Oreos would satisfy me in a way that a whole box of those cookies would not. So it makes me think, was this exactly what I was experiencing, what was demonstrated through this milkshake experiment? And there's so many other examples of that for me personally, so that I've become a person, and there's no right or wrong, and we all have to do this journey the way that works for us. But through all of my years of experimentation, I've come to understand that for me personally, I'm much better off eating a little bit of what I would call the real thing. I don't really, personally, I don't do sugar-free. It doesn't work for me. I don't do,
Well, it's the artificial
well, the
sweetener.
artificial stuff for me physically causes like this, that causes like a headache, specifically some of them. Others, I just don't like the taste really. And I think my eyes started to get opened up when I've had some opportunity to travel to Italy and France and take a few food tours, and I really came to appreciate the love of like the higher, like the quality of their food. And so I decided to just sort of play with becoming kind of a food snob, to be quite honest, and like to be more selective about what I was eating, more like a friend. I mean, I would pretend, I was a big fan of French ladies don't get fat. And so I would kind of pretend I'm a French lady and try to eat more like that, more into the, really savoring the high quality chocolate versus devouring several candy bars and stuff like that. So I've played with that, and it seems to have worked better for me. And I always thought though that the difference was just in the sort of the quality of the food. I never really gave thought to the fact that it could actually be what was exposed here for us in this study. Pretty wild. And so I really think about, because what they said here in this video is that for some of these products like low sugar, low this, low that, they might work better for us if we believed it was really decadent. And so how do we use this? How do we use this understanding that our mind and our beliefs are really part of the equation to help us on our journey? I think there's lots of things we can think about. Like they talked about, you really want to be thinking about whatever you're doing as being like you want to tap into the satisfaction and the indulgence and the enjoyment. If you're eating something that doesn't satisfy you physically just because you think it's healthier, you could be working against yourself, as this video showed us.
For me, I think regardless if I'm eating something I think is healthy or not or full fat, I think for me personally, slowing down is a big. I'm often the last person done eating if we're out at a restaurant. I always feel bad because the plates are being cleared and I still have half or a third left of my meal, but it's just, it's not. It is purposeful, but it's not. I'm not.
It's a good quality. And I mean, I think, and again, I'm going to go back to mindless eating forever because it was it has such for me, a great resource. But I think in that book, it talks about one of the strategies that you can use when you're with people is to try to be the last one to start and to try to time yourself and pace yourself with the slower eater to help train yourself to slow down so you can actually be serving a really good purpose for folks you're dining with, if they wanted to follow your cues and to try to actually eat, more at your pace. Because like you're saying, I mean, there's a lot of studies that have shown that it takes us, I think they say 20 minutes at least for the message to get from your stomach back to your brain to say you've had enough. And that's been another strategy that has helped me very much in that I'll eat and I'll finish and I'll think, well, I'm not sure. I'm satisfied yet. I think I might want a little more. And I've played this game to say, well, we're just going to wait. We're going to sit here and we're going to just sit and wait and relax and have conversation. And invariably, in 10 or 15 minutes or less, oh, no, I don't want more. I mean, so slowing down and paying attention is, I think, paramount to what we're talking about. Because again, it's all about these signals and the hormones and what has to happen. And sometimes, like, if you don't listen, then you end up overfull, right?
Absolutely.
If you go back for the seconds, you think you needed it, and then you're in misery because now you've overshot the runway and you're uncomfortable.
The hardest is when something's really good or tastes really good.
Right.
And we have this conversation a lot at dinner. It's like, oh, I really want some more, but it really is a conversation because you could easily go back for seconds, but then it's almost instant regret.
Right.
As soon as you've sort of overfilled.
Because it's not comfortable.
It's not exactly.
And it's interesting that you talk about that because there's a term in the Okinawans. The Okinawans are known for, I think, being or they have been in the past, they're one of those blue zones. And they're known for their long lives. And they have a term, have you heard it? It's like Hari Hachi Bu or something. And so it's a term that basically says 80% full. So they're trying to remind themselves always to only be filling up to like the 80% level, to never be topping off. I mean, so it's part of the culture, and it's this term, Hari Hachibu, that they'll be trying to remind themselves for this very reason. I think that because ideally your stomach isn't so full that it can actually do its work of digestion. If you overfill it, then it's over challenged. And I think, like you said, part of it is a conversation in the talk that you have with yourself to say, well, I don't want to feel bad. So I know it tasted wonderful, but I often will say out loud, and I don't know that this is true, but I will say it's not my last meal. It might be, but I don't know it. And I'll remind myself that it's not, and that I can have it. I will have it again. It's, again, a way to calm that part.
Right. And if there are leftovers and it was really good, then you've got another really good meal coming.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's that ability to just kind of slow down and trust that there will be tomorrow and you are going to eat again. And I think a lot of it is just you're changing your self-talk. I mean, I've often said that I feel like all of this is about, 95% mindset and mental and like 5% physical, because it really, there's a lot to be considered with the mind part of all of this.
Well, that video really
That really puts it,
in, in,
it,
enforced
it,
that
it
point.
punctuates it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, so I would love again to get readers' thoughts and ideas about how they would use and can use this knowledge and this information as they move forward in thinking about how they're going to approach their meals, in meal planning, and how they're going to approach, what they're thinking, and just realizing that what you're believing is extremely powerful, extremely powerful.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love to have your comments. We would love to have you to subscribe to our channel. And we'll be back again soon. Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.